Okay, that's fine. So we'll wait for a little bit before we start the reading. So yeah, there is wine. There's beer. There's water. And there are chairs. There's books. So welcome to Burkin Beckett. We'll get started as soon as the much anticipated people who aren't here get here. Okay. So yeah, we can tell you that we do some readings in here. We do a poetry series on the first Thursday of every month with a couple of featured readers and an open mic. So if any of you are poets in the area and you want to come to that, we would encourage you to do that. That's the first Thursdays at 7 o'clock. And other than that, we do a lot of music. We do Friday and Saturday nights and Sundays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But we're trying to get it back down to Fridays and Saturdays. We'll see if we're successful. There's a lot of good musicians, and most of that's jazz, but there's other strains. So there'll be poets, there'll be books. These are books. I mean, the poets' books as opposed to these books. And yeah, thank you all for being here. We'll start in a couple minutes. So thank you all very much for coming out. Evan Burkin is going to kick it off. Is it Burkin? Did I get that right?
Yep, you got
Close
right.
enough. And Evan is like kind of how you pronounce Evan.
I think so.
Cool. You know, don't want to ruffle any feathers the other Evans out there.
People have spelled it even before, so you know.
There you go. So yeah, we have Martin Nakell and Rebecca Goodman up from the Southland. So my introduction to start will be Evan Burkin is a MFA student in creative writing over at San Francisco State University. Attended Chapman College, or Chapman University, the Wilkinson College, where these two characters in the front row are on faculty teaching creative writing, oddly enough. And I'm going to turn the fan off in the restroom, so when you all leave that place, you might want to make sure you turn the fan off just to make it nice. Okay, so I'll do that, and I'll go to that end of the room in case there's any howling feedback when you start.
Perfect.
Okay, so wait till I get there.
Well, I won't start reading yet, but just want to say thank you to all the faces I see that I know. Just thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. And then, of course, thank you, Martin and Rebecca, for, bringing me onto the stage and for encouraging me to go to San Francisco in the first place. It's been a journey, to say the least. Alrighty. And good? Okay. So I'm going to read a mixture of excerpts from longer pieces of work, novel and short stories, as well as poetry in between. And I'll kind of give you guys notification when I change, but, kind of braided together with themes and whatnot. So let us begin. God sweat. I'm trying to scrape gods off my tongue, but these fuckers aren't easy to silence. When I first sat down, I howled. What is a desk or a pen to a coyote? That's what one in the sea asked. Then I wrote in dead languages, markings that required the use of each knuckle and the swivel of my elbow. Even now, my hand tightens at the thought of drawing those long arcs. I should send that list of symbols to a museum. Probably some money in it. Then as they are still here, but I'm starting to find my words again. Now let's start over, this time with an introduction. I'm Danny, the latest addition to Infinity, another trickster, and I'm trying to create a bridge here. That's my mission, to draw you into the infinity of your divine self. So wake up! You are divine. You are a mirror of legend in the flesh. You are a god. A god, do you hear me? Click your heels together and say it aloud. I am a god. My blood is shared between me and an ocean of divine listeners, reaching back to when there was only silence. You were alive in the 90s, the 60s. You were there as industry wilted our natural home, as Gutenberg gave birth to the printing press. Hell, the House of Medici had you as a servant, and you are also Cosimo de' Medici. You have been alive this whole time. If only it were that easy to explain. Bear with me as I try to tell you this story. There's more than one soul, one history inside me. They all have different beginnings, and they all know what I'm trying to do, so when I try to reflect, recall my story, they find ways to consume me. Let me pull back the skin of my fingers and drop flakes of snow for some of these souls. A coyote is a man 250 miles west of his home, wife, and 2 kids in New Hampshire. 251 now. His chew runs like a trail of shit from his fingers nailed to his knuckle. He's thinking of a fake name and what to say he does for a living. John Lawrence, textbook sales. Latinas back home in the Southwest tighten his thoughts into a quickening of blood. The fit of his jeans against his thighs forces him to spread his legs. Loki is a drag queen, snorting cocaine 5 minutes before his stilettos mark the stage for Judas. Tonight, one of the thousands of Lady Gagas is closer to 6 feet tall, holding his head high at the height. With a pound of hair will leave his neck sore tomorrow. But tonight, he doesn't feel a thing. His warm gut massages doubt, fear, aches, pain, name it. It doesn't exist. Only the light, the light, the light. He wakes up in Gaga's stockings. His partner has already cleaned the lipstick off the bathroom mirror and put bacon on the Foreman grill. Ame no Uzume is a mother of 3 making grilled cheese sandwiches, hungover. When they're packed and placed in backpacks near the door, she steals a cigarette from a loose counter tile. Freddie really should fix it already, and thinks of the different schedules for the day. Lorraine has swim. Buckley, karate, Maxine. She takes a deep breath and looks at the bird fountain in the backyard. A bathing bird has no knowledge of its nakedness, but it understands weight. Pebbles of water spill from its ruffled feathers. She swears she sees someone in the glass. All right. Embedded. Holmes had been embedded in his skin, the lives they held now his, now shrapnel, glass, plaster, and wood, entrenched. Sliding a hand down his arm, he finds a neighbor's memory, a two-way street, of motion flinting in the eye. He, as a neighbor, opens a door and sees himself. His eyes meet his own understanding, bodies as addition, but life, a different mathematic. The moment closes its eyes. How bland this time. No affairs, lovers or otherwise, but still better than his supermarket floor. Linoleum and gloss. The mop he always had to clean. Linseed and sunflower oils marooned. He feels the joint at the base of his thumb. As another neighbor, he lounges naked with the sound of Joan Baez and the arms of a co-worker's wife. When the building collapsed, he thought, this must be death. Living among fractals, splintered and without a voice, he witnessed collisions as no more than tufts of dandelion, wind gliding, kiss blown. He wishes this to be the truth, but every tangle of sight, each moment enmeshed as mosaic on his skin, reveals collisions as nothing but the suffocation of all senses. He strikes his cheek. Outside the building, covered in dirt and blood, he, as a mother, holds a child amid the debris. He feels how the mother does not want to be holding her child, motionless and cooling. Her child would have been free anywhere outside her grasp. He strikes again and again. Thoughts become mirrors, a collage of the word divine. He considers the gravesites that will emerge. Are they a violence continued? Let the earth eat, chew slowly, the way we let smoke carry our thoughts. Okay. Going back to a short story, Cracked Hand. Hillside Ranch. The word slipped from view as we drove past the brick wall at the edge of the neighborhood. I thought of how it should be. A kid goes to college, stays there 4 years, graduates, gets a job, visits parents during the holidays. 30 more seconds until I was home. A college dropout. My chest tightened. I wanted to count my heartbeats, focus on slowing them down, but I couldn't keep up beyond 2 beats. I told myself I was technically on a leave of absence, still a student. I wondered if we turned around then and I flew back, could I just continue with school, not call it a breakdown, forget about it entirely? The car jostled over a pothole and my shoulder knocked against the door. The sudden touch cleaved the thoughts about heading home down the middle. In their wake, I felt a gash, the tension of a headache. I heard the sound of gravel popping and felt little thoughts plinking against my temples. School, absence, home, touch, door. Then there was a snap. It happened in the way a rabbit hears a twig snap. At first, it felt more outside than in. I was the rabbit, the thought the twig. It seemed external, but then my body housed the snap. Contaminated. I froze. The word echoed, taunted violence in a way a hand pushes a shoulder. My mind raced to put things in order, to pull away, disengage. I told myself that I wasn't contaminated, but my own voice sparked friction, me versus the other, 2 voices, 1 head, and the other pressed into my argument, used it as a sling to launch forward, collect words, ricochet from one end to another. Germs on the door, never cleaned, layers of germs, snot, dirt, grime, shit, never cleaned. Everything outside the window dimmed, and the sound of the engine disappeared as I cooled inwards, focused on my body, its point of exposure. Lips pulled in, held shut, nose flamed up, runny, my skin prickled. Each pore was an opening for the air to plunge into as a cold needle, smooth for a moment and then intrusive, a bug bite asking to be scratched. Any thought towards saying shit wasn't on the door was followed by a louder thought. Shit, literal shit from your father's ass. My shoulders were up on instinct, rolled forward and near my cheeks, trying to fold up the stress that was spilling from my clenched jaw and down my neck and shoulders. My hands hid between my legs, squeezing each other, pressing palm to knuckles gently at first, and then hard enough to crack all 4 on my right hand. Almost home, Dad said. He must have wanted something to replace the sound of my cracking joints. Those were his first words since we started driving from the airport, but they were the same words he used when we packed our suitcases for the flight. At the airport, when we touched down at LAX, they barely made a sound in my head. The words were bones at that point, hollow, stripped of any meaning. I had been in a constant state of almost home for days, always inching closer, but I wasn't home. Hearing that we had a long way to go might have been better. It might have been heart louder than my fear of shit. Compulsive eye. In the proximity of my mind, I suffer. That is one way to describe mental illness. In the vein of saying I think, therefore I'm less. To an extent, eyeless. A physicality stricken, I watch my body age and have forgotten the feeling of dirt beneath my fingers, the sound of mud underfoot. Memory suggests a joy in these things, but the words to affix their value have left my tongue. Consider this a fact. Small joys can only be seen or heard in the obsessions of my mind. Such spaces of thought are a dense whiteness, abundant with broken glass. They remake the skinny dip in sun and holler of a crow as the flesh cut from my hands and feet. The sight of myself is simultaneously a gift and a nicely woven falsehood. Here, my hands hang off a desk, my feet cross beneath me, but there is nothing for my body, only a world in a little bright eye I cannot touch. Outside of dreamless sleep, I compare the broken geometry of my body to the expansive joy of my childhood. I find myself suddenly at eye level with all my fears, the hem of shorts, the gum beneath the table, the wax of urine on the porcelain of a bathroom. It is fine to think that this is all there is to mental illness. Yes, I remember how I was as a young boy. Every discussion was an exchange of skin and spit. In that way, my eyeless eyes lingering on my brother's lips and marveling at the fabric covering an ant's breast are shapes of nostalgia distorted on the abundant glass in my head. At times, I engage in the fantasy of Oedipus and unroot my eyes. I relearn uncertainty as a blessing. Be at peace. I can scrape my finger along the bottom of my boot and place it on my tongue without a thought. Summer Snapped, which, on a side note, this little card up here contains that poem as kind of like a little broadside. Just feel free to take one. Summer Snapped. Never at a loss for sweetness, I pressed lemon rinds to my teeth and learned to snap each finger 3 times. 3 times I turned to snapping each of my fingers for a sweetness I could never lose. Lemon rinds, sweet nests of yellow, my teeth snapped, fingers each way 3 times. How else to describe the nostalgia of childhood? Numb joy, a loss of sweetness in snapping, a snapshot of summer. Summer, when the sun nestles as a lemon held above a blue maw, the teeth of the blue maw never numb. The joy of summer, joy, a blue maw, I snap for lemons, held above the sun, another sun snaps. Childhood is learning an ache for loss. Nostalgia, I press 3 times. Nostalgia, a childhood of fingers and teeth. I press 3 times for faces I have never seen. I've learned adulthood is an accumulation of distances. Accords. How have you been? Somewhere, someone has ceased being, and yet here I am, a teething of language and anxiety. To remember I am not the you that has died, I tell myself, I am mine. Do you remember the fireflies? They are proof of joy, bioluminescence as a beginning. I remember a young girl crushed them to her skin and, in a moment of golden brilliance, disappeared. Did you hear about your aunt? She became the moon in the river, a pale reflection of every sadness. When I cupped her in my hands, I lifted from the water a shattering of glass. When did we visit? In his 80s, he realizes each year has become such a small fraction of his life. Words like dominoes tipping. Detroit, he says, as if time was inside the firmness of place. How old is she now? We assigned her our age with the addendum of infinity, a texture of youth. We all remember the movie that taught us some things never die. When did we learn prudence? She was just another name, puckered lips and teeth in that order. She used to make us laugh as we climbed the diamonds in chain link fences. When was the last time you wrote? Words hold permanence to her, a binding of her being to fragile items. She almost says now, but that's not the story she wants to tell. Do you still play? We stepped on dead grass knowing it was dead. In the fall, not a spot of green. We shared a single burn and carried it across the sky like the passing of days. What is the weight of color? It's a memory of a departure, a density of feeling that has formed a ball at the back of my mouth. I find red cotton tufts in my hand when clearing my throat. Is it like the sound of rain? She'll never be able to hold it to the sun, a mother's dream for her children. Shackled by the weight of bones, she found freedom dripping from loss. Heaven again. Nothing can harm the bright fictions of my mind. Even blood pulses hard. The cotton aftertaste, bourbon, LSD. I find the sun a delicate yellow, spoonful yellow, daisy pulp on a sweater, yellow-veined, a mother's sweater. The soft yolk of breakfast in childhood, mom's hair looped, a bun, dad already, a tie, out the door. Little me, more a you than me, all mouth and teeth, fingers embracing, carpet, couch, food, scrambled eggs on white china, the TV low enough to hear, dryer ring fresh, white tea. You know bliss, parents' arms, a swing set. You picture future and past, present, a point effortless, forgotten. You're almost a fiction, a reality grafted to my skin, but you are not that. Closer to a California, nice and cool in August, a collection of fairy tales others might recall. But the truth is, California is miserable in August. And you became another you, inch closer to me, but I'm still so far. Porous distance, everything open to zero, crows grow into ravens, then moons, just enough to light memory, new garments, overalls buckled, clean denim. You step with both feet, hop on the playground, palm nectar and gossip. Honeycombs, the word innocence, attached to you. Animal infants, mom used to say, like a little doe, memory teases. But from the surrounding green, doe wide eyes, steel eyes, burnt eyes, suggest lust. Hard-painted eyes, plead a case. Man and woman born of seashells, heavy cream, salt-dashed rot, benign feces, open pores, colossal bodies, live, porous webcams. Still the youth, their wide eyes, innocence already, gone. Closed eyes find, lips upon the ear. You close your eyes throughout the day in the shower, during breakfast, in class, holding your girlfriend's hand, eyes close to the world, imagine other eyes, looking back, caressing. When they close, reopen, they reopen. Almost me, you me. Now I, idiot I, unsaged I, enter memory, touch the silver screen, pull my body, blood and iron, bright contaminants like zinc, to embrace. But you cower, disease, HIV, fictitious contraction, a fiction grafted to my current skin, clinics, blood tests, you and me, with open wounds, fearing another's blood, OCD paralysis, the thought, 1,000 dandelion seeds, a tree coated white with lightning bugs, everything flickers. Still a sprout grows, still a sprout. From fiction, reopen the book of questions. Again and again, no book of answers except every book, a single answer. An author questions crime, questions punishment, reader or God, which is judge, interior as purgatory, interior as relentless, define the borders when struck dumb by a relentless interior, another self, breach godhood, claim divinity, seek help, accept oneness in the articulate history of words, definitions you never knew, someone's existence to know words, define use, another, define context, pronunciation, open your mouth, close the space between you and me. And then I'm going to end on one last poem. This will be my last poem, and let's just get right into it. Her eyes remembering mine. Who would have thought the sky in September would sketch my Nona's eyes? It's gray and not gray, matching the divided line of her sight, blind and not blind. If I were to open her bad eye, cut it with a small knife, a scalpel precisely, would others stare back? Could I pull eyes from their eyes and in each pool of black night reach a more distant star? I know the whiteness of the eye is like a pouring of salt, a promise to keep your quiet thoughts. But if I could find two eyes to answer mine, then please, please, the eyes of my Nono, spoken of as coral beds bleeding light, fractured daydreams striking precious veins. I imagine myself at the cusp of two opposites in his eyes. Below, the color lost in the undoing of ripples, unable to register the boy he never met. Above, the eyes of every Angelo until the Sistine Chapel lets me touch God. And if not the eyes of others, but instead the moth-kissed skin of her memories, then let me hold the tapestry that I find carefully and study it in silence. They say, even in a single thread, there are the knotted roots of DNA, a cinema unfolding. Black thread. The whole of a rifle stares at her face with an incomplete blackness. It turns from her and points at bodies at the center of the plaza. Their black shoes reach for the pavement. White thread. The ice cream she had in a bowl on a boat in the Atlantic. Her mother eats ice cream across from her. The tips of waves in the distance send sugar and whipped cream her way. Brown thread, the fronds of hair standing on top of my dead uncle's head. He is alive here. He is alive and shaking clumps of wet sand from his brown hair. They pile as pyramids at his feet. I watch her eyes. Glaucoma has curdled in the good one. Half the eye is now the same gray as the blind one, the other half a half moon of brilliant blue sky. I watch her eyes to find the old woman remembering the little girl that would sing O Sole Mio on tables in her father's cafe. I watch for her, the aged child, to walk down a corridor of dove-colored cabinetry, pulling files for the right memories.
Goodman is coming up, fiction writer. She's got 3 novels that are all in evidence here. So it started with this Green Integer book in 2015, I think.
2008.
Oh, 2008. This one might be 2015.
Yeah,
After Sight.
that.
And this is the current one here, Forgotten Night. So Rebecca Goodman.
Thank you, Eric. I'm going to be reading from the beginning of Forgotten Night. I have to find the first page. Three times I knocked on the door at 12 Rue des Juifs. I waited. The courtyard still. From steep wooden stairs leading to the ramparts, a cat hissed at me. I knocked again. The stone walls were cracked, musty. A sign on the stairs warned of danger. The cat came down a step out of its steep darkness. I held my hand out to it. It hissed again. No motion, no wind. The sky above the courtyard gray, almost hidden. I stepped back. The presence of memory shifting inside me. I stepped back, unable to speak. A woman pushing a baby stroller walked past. Madame, she stopped. Can I help you? She didn't move. She repeated, Can I help you? She looked down, lifting the corner of the blue blanket covering the baby carriage. I could not see the baby. I did not hear a sound, not a cry, not a breath. She waited, unwilling to leave, at once a strange distance between us. What I wanted to reveal to her, but could not. The notion of self, the representation of the body, the moments that erased the space we stood in. I looked up at the shuttered windows, the empty flower pots. I thought I heard voices, laughter, quickly dissolving into silence. Was there no one left? I'm looking for Madame Brissac, I said. I think she lives here. The woman shrugged her shoulders. I don't know, she answered. The name, she asked? Brissac, I repeated. I believe the family lives here. I don't know, she answered. She smiled, pointed to the center of town. Ask in town. Good day, she said. She opened the door on the far side of the gravel courtyard, entered, then shut the door behind her. I knocked again. No sound, no response. When I stepped back from the door, I looked up. Words rained all around me. At first a soft drizzle, conjunctions, words that seemed to connect but not describe. And, but, so. And I thought about those words that tried to connect. My childhood, my lined notebook, the awkward print. And then, softly, the words penetrating my clothes, my body, adverbs, adjectives, raining down on my skin, beneath my skin, flowing through me, disguising me, revealing me, forming the notion of who I was and who I could be. When I looked around, I was ensconced in language, a language I could not understand but feel. Words breaking apart mid-air, fractured into letters, consonants, vowels, symbols, punctuation marks, broken into images, sounds, bird calls, wind, the water well, the stream, the walls surrounding the village, the silence around me, the landscape of my body, of my history, of the courtyard, foreign and yet near. Every word that fell on me marked me with a closeness I could almost reach, an impenetrable distance that betrayed me, the distance between. Time fractured. I looked down. The words dissolved into puddles. Alone in the courtyard, the distant sounds in the square beyond. I stepped back, waiting, watching for movement. Would the shutters open? The blue paint peeling, the steep dark stairs leading to the ramparts, the sudden constraint of time. A black cat emerged from the shed in the courtyard. It peered at me from the darkness. The next time I knocked on the door at 12 Rue de Juif, I heard footsteps. The door opened. It was a small boy, perhaps 6 years old. He looked at me without saying a word. He rubbed his eyes, staring straight ahead, past me. I asked, "Is your mother or father at home?" He didn't respond. A few moments later, I heard a baby crying in the background, some shuffling from within the dark corridor. It was a warm afternoon. The lights were off. Perhaps the family had been asleep. Finally, a woman came to the door. She wore a pale blue sundress. She carried a baby in her arms. She said, "May I help you?" I said, "I'm very sorry. I hope I didn't disturb you." "No," she said. "Can I help you?" The baby continued to cry. She hugged it closer to her body. I said, "I'm looking for a Madame Brissac. I believe she lives here, or has lived here." "Madame Brissac?" "No," she said. "My family has lived here for generations." I'm sorry to have disturbed you, I said. I must have the wrong address. She said, Brissac? The name, she asked. Not familiar. Juif, she asked. Yes, I said. I believe so. Not possible, she said. Someone in the village might know, I said. No, she said. I doubt it. Jews haven't lived in this village for over 500 years. I stepped back. She said, not here. I leaned against the water well in the courtyard. Moss grew around and along the stone structure. I sat down on the broken wooden bench next to the well. Birds everywhere there's sound. The day increasingly humid. Footsteps in the distance. The bus arrived outside the upper gate, just beyond the old ghetto. I got on, the doors closing behind me. The bus descended, winding down around the fortressed walls of the village. It was early spring, the green hillsides covered in grapevines. The heat was stifling. I sat in the middle of the bus, filled with young students and elderly women. No one spoke. In the village, the bus stopped again, at an isolated stop. No village, just a bench on the side of the road. A man got on. He sat in the seat across the aisle from me. He said, "Can I open the window for you?" "I'm fine," I said. "Thank you." He smiled. Laughter came from the back of the bus. I turned around. Two young boys wrestled each other in their seats. My back was wet. I wiped my upper lip. He continued to watch me. He said, "You're visiting?" "Yes," I answered. "For long?" "Not sure," I answered. He smiled again, taking off his dark blue jacket. He folded it across his lap. He turned his body to face mine. The bus driver shouted at the children. "Hey," he yelled, "you kids in the back." I turned around. The two boys giggled. The man said, "I'm interested in your face. I'm an artist." I shook my head, not knowing what to say. "I'd like to photograph you," he said. "I am not sure," I answered. He said, "Of course. I understand." I pulled the fabric of the dress away from my body. "We're coming to my stop," he said. He pulled out a pen and small notebook from the pocket of his jacket. He said, "I'm setting up an exhibit in this village. I'll write down the address. I think you'll enjoy it." He tore out the paper from the notebook, reaching across the aisle to hand the note to me. I took it from him. He held out his hand. "Luca Corbeau," he said. "Please come by." The bus stopped at the next village. He got off, turning back to look at me. He smiled before he turned to enter through the village gates. The bus passed two more villages before crossing a bridge over a narrow river and stopping at an industrial outpost. About to exit, I asked the driver for directions to the old cemetery. He shrugged. "I wouldn't know," he said. It was now late afternoon. I walked through two roundabouts. On either side, white block buildings, deserted parking lots, forgotten, abandoned. At the second roundabout, there was a small white sign pointing east to the Jewish cemetery. I followed the sign. Occasionally, a car passed, honking at me as I walked along the empty streets. At each crossroad, I stopped. No place to hide. Where could I go? The sun beat down, the heat unbearable. Inside my shoes, my feet swelled. At the next roundabout, the road ended. The ground grew marshy, wet. To the right, a white path leading up into the hills. To the left, the road, with no sign, appeared to lead back to the village. I crossed a small bridge over the marshy landscape. Weeds and wildflowers grew tall, cicadas, birds, no sign of human life. I passed a farm, no workers, no animals. I followed a narrow dirt path toward and around a high cement wall. Across the way, a small 2-story brick structure, perhaps a house, surrounded by a wire fence. Still no movement. Inside the fence, a tractor, barrels, weeds. As I passed, two Rottweilers inside the fence ran at me, barking, sniffing, digging at the dirt at the bottom of the fence. I couldn't breathe. I passed the house, walking on. The cemetery gates were closed, but not locked. I pushed them open and went inside. The ground covered in white gravel. the light reflecting off the whiteness, inside a landscape of dark tombstones, some so blackened it was impossible to read the names. The cemetery extended in two directions, a small chapel in the back. I turned to the left side of the cemetery, holding my purse close to my body, the writing on the tombstones worn away, barely decipherable, only dates, no names. 1896, 1897, 1889, 1888. Silence broke. A truck drove up the dirt path, stopping at the two-story structure outside the cemetery gates. The dogs barked. A train passed in the woods behind the cemetery. I stood just inside the cemetery gates, waiting to see what the driver would do. He pulled into the yard next to the house. Two men got out of the truck and began unloading boxes. The dogs ran up to the men. The men didn't notice me. I waited until they left before I moved. At the entrance to the graveyard stood a large monument to the victims of the Holocaust. I don't know why I proceeded. With each step, the gravel beneath my feet cracked, as if at any moment the silence of the landscape would eviscerate me, the stone stela crumbling. Who had gone here before? Who had surrendered? The names on the stones, now barely discernible, only dates. I passed among the unknown, with only a marker to show that they had once been here. Where were their families now? Where had they gone? No sign of flowers, of movement, of visitors to remember them. As I walked, I imagined I was walking with my father. Where was my mother's stone? So far away now, across an ocean, across a continent, not here, but where? Absent of the verdant wasteland between us. My father and I wandered the cemetery, looking for the names of our families, of my family's family. He said, "I need to know where your grandmother was buried," he said. "I don't know where my father is." I said, "It's here, but where?" He said, "I need to clean the stones for them. I'm now the gatekeeper." A mockingbird landed on top of the tombstone, squawking 3 times before flying off. The door to the chapel was locked. I turned around, searching for dates, searching for names. The rows of dead. I read the names that were visible. Kahn, Dreyfus, Weil. Marceau, Ackerman, Marx, Levy. Lieberman, Loeb, Ratisbonne. C. Strauss. Kahan, Levy, Villon. Weiler, Vici. At what point did names become things, pointing to a history I no longer understood? Fischer, Goodman, Klatsky, Braun. The landscape of the inevitable. At the juncture between the 3rd and 4th row, I saw it, the name Brissac, carved into the stone. I touched it, afraid to feel what I feared most, the name on the tombstone. Abraham Brissac, born 1849, died 1906. Was it the same? Same Brissac? Same family? Above his name, the carved image of a book. At first I kneeled, then sat down on the white gravel. The earth was hot, the stones painful. I pulled my notebook out of my purse, pulling a piece of paper from it. I wrote the words, "I will find you." I folded the paper and buried it among the warm stones in front of the grave. At the entrance gate there was a faucet and a basin below it. I turned the spigot. It did not work. I walked out to the highway. The bus that was supposed to arrive that afternoon didn't come. Though it was still light out, I could see that darkness would arrive soon. I sat down on the bench. I looked up, imagining I could see. Stranded here, in a place unfamiliar, resonant with lies, half-truths, sounds that echoed in an open space, surfaced in the closed and claustrophobic world that refused to change. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. And now, the headliner, ladies and gentlemen, making his way to the stage. gracious and timely way that one does with red wine. The book. Can't do it without the book. These books. I think he's got 18 of them so far. And a manifesto. You got a manifesto, you know it's serious. So yeah, glad to have Martin here tonight to read from this. This also came out from Spite and Doyville, which is the same press on Rebecca's novel, and refresh consciousness. And you're gonna mostly read from that exclusively.
Somewhat.
Some of that, and whatever he wants to do. Carte blanche. Okay, glad to have you here.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. This store, this shop, this place feels like home. Like being at Shakespeare and Company or something. Having never done anything like this before, I'm going to do it now. This is brand new. So if it's terrible,
Martin, let's bring that mic a little lower so it doesn't block your face. In the world of the internet, you know.
you're the master of the mics.
We're gonna put a little off to the side. All right.
Of glass. The man arrives in the meditation hall for the morning meditation. It's dark. Light will arise during the first meditation period. Coffee, the smell of coffee, and breakfast will follow. 2 meditation periods and a brief, unhurried chanting. The woman approaches the meditation cushion. Something new. The black fluffy cushion is covered with, embedded with hundreds of shards of glass. The morning's darkness passes through the glass's translucency, radiant darkness. He bows to the cushion, turns to the room, bows to her fellow meditators. As he sits on the cushion, glass shards pierce her buttocks. Stoic, accepting, open, and receptive of everything. She doesn't show any response. In full lotus position, hands in a proper mudra, he focuses. That evening, the same. The following morning, the same. He doesn't talk about it. She tends to the body. On the 15th such day, as the rising sun's light fills the meditation hall, rendering all visually clear, she cries, screams, this vegetative wail of such full strength that when it gaseous, stirring, blood-surging wail subsides. He lifts up her eyes, looks around. The walls remain intact. They support the ceiling, the roof. The floor has not buckled. Her comrade meditators have not stirred. Had they not heard? 300 horses with riders descend, come falling, floating from, through the ceiling. Each becomes glass. 300 glass horses, ridden by 300 glass riders. The woman, at the ringing of the glass bell, mounts the horse which had just appeared, tied up outside. He mounts the horse. She spurs the horse with a kick of the heel to the flesh. To the flesh of the horse's flank. Astride, whether still or in motion, they embrace. The following day, that is the day following the day described above, she comes to the morning meditation, bows to the meditation cushion. He turns to bow to her comrade meditators, all of whom, each of whom, will not take their eyes off of him until the gong sounds. I didn't write that. Sorry, I have vocal problems. Seems particularly bad tonight, so I apologize. I hope you all can hear Eric's brilliant microphone work. Some lies about the birds of Venice. 1. Alice Monet. In Venice, Madame Alice Monet wrote in her diary that the birds she heard on awakening each dawn, not the legendary flocks of pigeons, of course, but the plethora of other birds, the passerine, were like no other bird song she'd ever heard. I'm sure she wrote that it's the influence of not only, but led by, the bell of Campanile di San Marco, but from all the bells of all the bell towers gathering together. It's not coincidental that after centuries and generations of birds flying amid the bells, these birds have absorbed the sound into their bodies, into their minds, to the point where they magnificently have altered their own song. The birds, to some degree, are the bells, the birds. When I can't sleep, I imagine the bird song I will hear again at dawn until I do sleep, having become, in some degree myself, the birds, the bells. 2. Michel Sambach. An extensive, exhaustive study of birds worldwide reveals there may be as many as 500,000 species. In the early part of the 20th century, the aviarian Michel Sambach embarked on an investigation to discover what effect the sounds of different birds chirping had on different populations of people. Did certain birds have a calming effect, while other birds an excitatory effect? Did certain birds make people think differently than did other birds? Monsieur Sambach began working in South America, intending to travel on every continent. After 16 months' work, he gave it up. He wrote in his diary, "It's not possible to arrive at any conclusions because there are far too many factors, too many variables. For example, how can you isolate in Brazil the effect of song of the incredible Momotus Momota from the effect of the forest itself? How, in Kenya, separate the effect of the song of the red-winged lark from the effect of the grassland? How distinguish the influence of hunger from the influence of birdsong?" Monsieur Sambach's friend, Georges Clemenceau, a friend also of the Monets, wrote to Sambach about Madame Monet's impressions of the birds of Venice. Monsieur Sambach quickly departed to Italy. In Venice, he took a room in the same hotel where the Monets had stayed, the Barbero Palace on the Grand Canal. On waking his first morning in Venice, he wrote in his notebook, "Madame Monet was right. Looking back on it, every bird I've listened to over the last 16 months has a similar effect. If only we can listen, can learn to hear." When Monsieur Sambach ran out of money, an Italian friend, Michelangelo Venetiano, gave Sambach a room in his Venice home. Unfortunately, that room was on the ground floor. When the canals flooded that year in their annual cycle, not only were some important papers of Sambach's nearly destroyed, but Venetiano, in disgust, gave up his annual Venetian ordeal and left the city. Sambach had no choice but to go home. 3. Robert Stroud. Good to read about Robert Stroud here in San Francisco. My friend Robert, this is from a letter by Johannes Voll from Alcatraz to his friend Harold Levitsky. My friend Robert Stroud told me that the only regret in his life was that after reading in Madame Alice Monet's letters about the birds of Venice, he wanted desperately to go there, to wake up in the morning to hear the birds that Madame Monet heard. But of course he couldn't. He told me that if he heard those birds, his life would be complete. Everything he'd suffered would be made tolerable. Well, first of all, I think he vastly overstated the case. No birdsong, no matter how soft or elegant, can do them for you. But more importantly, I asked him, "Robert, that's your only regret? You don't regret murdering the bartender? Don't you regret murdering the prison guard at Leavenworth in front of 1,100 prisoners? Don't you regret the brutality against others that got you years and years and years of solitary confinement, even if that confinement meant discovering the canaries. Don't you regret a life of violence and imprisonment? How can you so dishonor the victims of your violence by giving me this crap about not hearing the birds of Venice being your only great regret? You know what he told me? He told me I didn't really murder anybody. Then he said, did I? I didn't really murder anybody, did I? And I'll tell you what I think, Harold. I think this trout dreamt somehow that you'd heard those birds of Venice and that bird song. Mad as this all is, erased the sins of his life for him. You know, I found him so congenial, so sweet, but I didn't meet him until after the canaries. Yet disillusion about the birds of Venice. But I'll tell you something. You go to Venice. You tell me what it's like. Because when I get out of here, and that'll be quite soon now, as you know, I'm going to Venice. You'll have to lend me the money. I'll pay it back. If I can begin my life of freedom after these many years of imprisonment with hearing those birds, then I'll make it the rest of the way. I'll be all right. Listen to me. Pierre, have you ever seen the Monets from his Venice sojourn? They're amazing. They'll make you smile and weep and evoke a quiet peace in you all at once. They have that kind of evocative possibility. 4. Harold Levitsky. The world is in fact a sleepy place. Everyone at any given moment could just let go and their bodies fall and find themselves wherever they are, lying down, asleep. It's a sweet thought, a sweetening image of being. There's a tribe in South America that acts of this reality. They sleep, they hunt, they cook, they eat, they have sex, they celebrate their rituals, and in their hammocks, chewing on some mildly psychedelic plant root, they sleep. They sleep away mornings and afternoons. They sleep away evenings. And then after ceremonies that exhaust them, they go to bed. They sleep in peace, untroubled by anything but the most luminous of dreams. Even in dreams of violence, they are the victors. Dreams of hunting, dreams of wars, dreams of violent ritual. So their dreams are never rattled by anything disturbing enough to interrupt their sleep. It's almost, not quite, but almost as if when they die, someone could put them in the hammock where they spent their life, and they would belong unto eternity. I write about these people from my hotel room now at the Barbero Palace in Venice because, as I'm about to go to the university to lecture on this tribe in Brazil, whom I studied, lived with, got to know intimately, the birds chirp outside my window. Do they remind me of the birds of Brazil? No, I don't think so. But their soft chirp has a soporific effect on me. I could just fall into my bed and sleep so happily. But no, I am a civilized man, a scholar. I belong to a whole different culture from my people in Brazil. I have business to perform. It has little to do with hunting or eating or sex. I have to go lecture to people who most likely wish they could live like my Brazilian friends. They could go to their hammocks as I speak in that great hall. Or they are the other kind. They will condemn my Brazilian tribe for their laziness, their slowness, their waste of their lives. Either way, I'll go shower, I'll dress. The sound of those birds here will drift only into the background of my day, until perhaps if I wake up early enough tomorrow, I'll hear them. I have no obligations in the morning. Maybe I'll sleep in, but maybe not. Either way, I will not include in my lecture the experience of hearing certain members of the tribe in their sleep flawlessly replicate the bird songs of the rainforest for my protection and to shield the tribe. Five. Blanche Hochede Monet. Madame Alice Monet wrote to her daughter that in Venice the soft chirping of the birds at dawn was a powerful thing, a delicate power that entered into her sleep, and it became a long moment, extreme, soft, deep, fleeting, but lasting pleasure when she awoke. Even, she wrote, when Monet despaired, finding his canvases ugly, finding that Venice was too beautiful to be painted, that it was untranslatable. Madame Monet, still each dawn, was always heartened by the birds. Even if she wrote, she arose always to fits of anxiety. The birds' soft chirping would mingle with those anxieties, not dispersing them, not even diluting them, but as if molecule by molecule, displace them with their sonorous and radiant reality. If, she told Monet, I could translate those sounds into white lead, cadmium yellow, vermilion, madder, cobalt blue, chrome green, wouldn't that be as magnificent an oratorio as is a Monet canvas, a magnificent vision? But mostly, she wrote, she was so happy to see Monet once he found a way to come into it, so impassioned by his Venetian canvases as he moved around daily, following light. At least, she wrote, for the time being anyway, no more of those lilies. I love those Venetian paintings, she later wrote, from Givenchy, where Monet finished them as the highest expression of his art. They are not Venice, she wrote. They are not the birds of Venice. They are Monet, transformed, as if alchemically, by Venice. There's a difference. 6. The birds of Venice. When Madame Monet awoke one morning near the end of their Venice sojourn, only the sound of pigeon wings filled the air on the balcony where she stood listening. The birds of Venice had gone silent. Venice, 7, 8, 7. Venice. Red, blue, and green water backgrounds, alleyways, where deep water wakens into sleep, shape, and form softens it to absorb an eye gaze that moves across, absorbs so many reds, piquant green history, rides through them within yellow, blue, so many blues, the earth is blue, the water blue, stone yellow, plaster dries, the experiment of the eye names the name of being, color tone renaissance, pigment, here water through color, flows, flowing flow, softens, evenings, rides through the plane of senses into the courtyard, proprioception, the hand sees, feeling, the ear sees sound, the curvature of time spells out the motion of everything is liquid, as dawn yields to other light, to follow dusk, an explosion ringing reds, to orange sky absorbs them together, through swash of ore, breaking word soften, color, whisper, surface, home. Apologize. I hope it was all hearable. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you all for coming out for that. Let's hear it one more time for our readers. Crystal clear. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Appreciate it. So stick around. There's no rush. There's all that wine. $6. What do they think?
And all these books to buy.
I have wheelbarrows. I have personal wheelbarrows. All right. Thanks again. I'll trim this off so it doesn't suddenly decide to do anything fun. Really great to hear.
My voice was worse tonight.
Oh, really?
So the
Has
mic
it
was,
been?
mic was a great help.
Yeah, it works really
Really
well.
did.
Very spread to the round and to the recording. Good. How long have you been dealing with voice problems like that? Yeah.
A couple of years. It will be dealt with. It will be dealt with.
Oh yeah, there is
But it's
there's
gonna
work that
take
can be
time.
done on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what specifically they say it is? Oh yeah. Oh, is that right?
Burkin.
That's a lot to deal with. Good thing you got birds, I guess. Yeah, wonderful stuff. So the Italy fascination goes back a couple years.
We used to take program students to Italy.
Was that when you first started going a lot? Were you already pretty familiar?
No, she was before me.
Yeah.
I love
So it was pretty much anything. Good. Oh, is that right? You carry that illusion off quite well. Quite well. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So, still gonna be able to keep going? You think?
No, long time we haven't gone.
Been a while. Making those trips with the students.
We'll go.
Yeah. Yeah. Good to get out of the house. Yeah.
So you have jazz all weekend? If you want to hear, hold on to it.
Why don't I hold your book? One last thing. Yeah, that's all right. I could continue to go through the order plan. Does Green Ninja still pursue
But I just know they like had a moment like this together.
So I got into the good time. There's still some there was a lot of vegetables. About scrambled stuff. Smarter I would have gone up a bunch. There you go. I know it's bass players.
Like you were really insulting your mouth. I hate it.
Which is most of the time. Yeah, no. He was playing from the beginning. So he came out here and David and Elsie
I'm in fiction.
so he plays there. You know that is. Yeah. So he plays.
Think about it.
So it's wonderful percussion. More than so that's all. Oh yeah. You ever need to get out on camera, just move out. Minute by minute.
She wants to do that.
Oh yeah, I was gonna be that person.
And now it's just getting it's just a matter of doing it.
Evoked all of that so clearly. Yeah, maybe
Well, it's weird. I don't know what time it is. It's I don't remember that. I mean, I remember Jay Oakley. He's got a great name. He had a great license plate. I'm German. His name was Jay Oakley. He's still doing some sort of construction finance. But other than that, I really don't remember anything. Yo, Ron, some of the field guys.
Big summer off, so
But yeah, that's that. 3 months trying to
Right. Well, I remember years ago, first moved out when decided that's what I store.
well, I mean, like,
Oh, okay. So we're at the store and person came we still in front of me in line at the store.
5 months, but
That's right.
pleasant.
Put the speaker. You did really good. It's pretty good.
It's a lot of
Mine since I moved away.
Yeah, right.
There's 2 pairs of shoes and pairs of belt.
Oh, God.
You know, I'm still very flashy. Michelle
yeah, the fiction group is like.
They're a little thicker than I do.
Did you want to go to the right?
Hi, I wanted to say hi before I leave.
That was my biggest fear.
Guys, a few years ago. Yeah, Katie, but I went by Princess for this one.
Let's all like all tape. I know.
She used to bring all of the different colored pens to edit.
That's right.
I was like, I gotta think of something that. I said literature, stuck in the basement. Jody's basement. He couldn't give us a room above ground.
I'm gonna purchase some books and hopefully yeah, absolutely. Hopefully get them signed maybe if you're willing. That'll be good. Yeah, okay, let me see. Let me grab some.
Oh, it's in Chicago. Okay.
We used to rock night. Is this how it works? You can just grab it. I have consciousness. And I want to read this though. Okay, I'm gonna go back.
Okay, I'm gonna organize this. I no longer yeah, I mean, like, this is what I like is like I like a little break. The rest of us are all it's like 5:30, so I was like, let me do that. Hi, Dr. Michelle. I'm so excited to see you again, and I just put down my pen. I would like to buy this book you have in my house. Oh, thank you. There it is. How are you doing today? Pretty good. Recovered from my long, the long weekend.
I was like, please note,
What are you doing? Yeah, should I not be asking you questions?
Yeah, well, like I said,
Just in case. It was I like doing classes. Did you write everything? It seemed it reminded me of how during classes sometimes it would be something you've worked on for a long time, or sometimes you would tell us, I wrote something today and I want you guys to hear it, and that was because it was new. You know, it was new and we got to hear it. So that made me I had to. I could see Oh, wait, is that what was new about it? Is coming to an official reading with a brand? Today? In the hotel? She was right.
Yeah, I read it like that too, and then I was like, because I always read the bio for us.
but I was going to have like a glass out of whiskey bottle.
First of all, I didn't just tell you no.
But I did like that.
And they were right too, which I was
If you need to make a glass out of whiskey, a whiskey bottle that was in there.
I had a question. Okay. I want to see. I was so interested.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you again.
Okay. In the birds, the piece that you read. The one I read is a history of Sarah. I read some of that because my roommate Gabrielle wrote for that the experimental but I haven't read any poetry. So it was really cool to see here after graduating, after I left, but get to see I don't know how to buy it yet. To go and talk to the Okay. Can you sign it for me?
I remember I did that just seems like off that that just us out like weird.
I was like, oh, so you can go get it.
There's some conversation at anything else we talk about.
Or you could go.
So how do you choose locations? Or how does Professor Goodman choosing like this store, maybe one in New York?
I don't see that.
Because like that's why I really like that the school
Oh.
other cities.
I don't see that type of stuff.
wanted to show you. I tried to write notes when I listened to readings, and so the first fellow who read, and then Professor Goodman and you. But I don't have any paper today, so in the back I was trying to write down lines. So I put lines about Venice, and just wrote questions and thoughts because I didn't have a paper. You should get one with me instead. How about that? It's tough.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I used it once. The DFA reading. I'm Jordan. Yeah.
Next time, sit down and
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did a capstone class. Yeah, but your readings were beautiful. I really liked the seeing the through line with the birds. I got that at the end. I was like, I understand now. These are all together. Yeah. Maybe keep me Sorry. It took me, to get the through line. I think that's just reading error, listening error. I got there. Very slowly.
excuse me, just want to say goodnight. We will see you over the weekend, hopefully. And yes, we're on our way. And get Michelle home before we turn the turtles. But have a good evening.
The first reader who read before you Professor Goodman speaking to now, but has a little right thing. This looks cute.
That was my first venue reading, basically outside of open mics. That was tough.
I feel bad, but I was like,
Makes me miss Orange.
it was kind of nice to have somebody kind of come in and just be like, I need to be here.
It felt very like rom-com. Come at the end, like, or like the absent father.
You're like the end of the Taylor Swift music video.
I have these all too. But yes, that's me.
You're you're the actor who's playing Jake Gyllenhaal. Whatever.
I was wondering about that.
I didn't have any paper today. That's good, because I'm actually kind of proud of it.
I was like wondering.
I didn't do it once. It was kind of awesome.
About it.
No, you should. It's awesome. I'm proud of myself.
I did. Yes, I did. I had to come from class because I'm at St. Mary's for my MFA. We only meet once a week for our classes.
No.
Yeah, it's hard. And we do this class is 1 book a week. So every week is like I'm missing an entire block that we discuss. So I was like, oh, an hour early. But I'm glad that I appreciate it.
Do you know anyone who would?
I think so. She's so cool. Oh, there's
I heard that we're going to dinner today. That we are going to dinner today together. I think we're going to go to the place that the hotel recommended to you. We saw it. Not a lot is open.
We found a great restaurant. Everything was closed. It's amazing.
So it was worth it? I saw that on the map. Okay,
I didn't know how to set coffee. No.
Yeah, when I first saw his like post, and then I was like, oh damn, what was I? Because I knew I was making such a risky mistake putting Guardians. Yeah. And I was ready to just like defend my case. I was ready to be like, look, I know it's a little able,
I guess
but
this
I
part
have
of the city is further.
I was like, but I really already know about had like
Because for me, it only took like 30 minutes. But then getting to like Golden Gate Park is like an hour. But that's just because Golden Gate Park is so I don't know. I drove. I had 1 week where I drove into the city for 4 times. So because I took my phone up for myself and got chosen. And then we went to the city and stuff.
And it's like, so you can imagine it like that.
So
You're related.
I don't think I'm although I know I've seen those things, but why do you write all this again?
The Bronx? You're hiding your accent very well. I've been told I have a Connecticut accent.
I love it. I like it very much. But I want to
Good ear.
check it.
I got it.
very clear.
Many years.
Well, on and off for 50 years. I came in 67 to go to San Francisco State College.
Oh yeah,
Only took me
that was
10
a
years
ride.
to get a measly master's degree.
I was like, I
Took me a couple of jobs, but working on
I started writing all of
okay,
this.
this is
yeah, a filmmaker,
For
a film
texting
journalist,
because
mostly
I
film
didn't like
journalist.
having a
I mean,
capital letter
I started
on
writing
a
for a
subject
college
that
paper.
was because I felt like that wasn't proper grammar.
I just did it because I thought it looked cool.
like every single
Called an
That was my
interview.
reason.
We're going to make it
Yeah.
something.
It is cool.
So, I've been doing filmmakers for all these years, on and off, for college papers. These filmmakers,
Yeah,
But I
you're
switched
connected so really
I switched it back to AutoCAD.
I was, actually,
Because when I was sending emails from my phone, like professional emails, I got tired of AutoCAD.
Oh, no.
The real question is, do you manually lowercase your text messages?
I just let it be uppercase.
That's comparable to what's
We'll offer
happening
you free words.
from our
Fossils?
later life, you know, our
God's
time
Set
frame.
is the name of the first
I just
poem.
arrived here
And I will ask Mark somewhere
from a
over
little
there.
Jesuit school in
And I will give you,
So what the hell's going on here when the cops
God's
are
Wet
on?
Woman.
Yeah, I think. I don't know.
About what?
And I will give you,
About the strike in
You did? Well,
I'm gonna have a real problem reading this
There
later.
was a professor of China.
no, but they were writing about they were writing about what happened.
Yeah.
He's a wild
Yeah.
usually they only pull up stuff from the past like that as a new book or movie.
Well, that's
Something had, you know, an article about that. Oh. Well, this strike depended upon the third world. They were first college, San Francisco State College.
Yeah, I mean, it only like I know
They
it's
pioneered
struggling.
ethnic studies. Ethnic studies. Whoever heard of ethnic studies in 1968? Where were you in it?
populated human. Just laid over this podium and said,
Building it. Are you an
"Like you,
architect?
wouldn't you like to fuck a guy?"
That's impressive for both parties.
yeah.
Close
That's
the pizza.
intense. I think I would have been, I wanted to be there, but I wouldn't want to be in, like I don't want to be a student, but I would like to be.
I think last week was
So, it's a great
That's a
bookstore.
memory.
Who did you say that was? Dying Like Flies.
the ones we got was like
I lost a great one down on Market Street last week.
Richard Hall.
It's an ecological book.
yeah.
Around for about 10 years.
And like I haven't had that
Here at
kind
City
of
Lights, it's got way back.
I'm gonna write that down. That's pretty cool. And also, yeah, I don't know if I would want to have any other person in that interaction. But would it be
Yeah.
So I like argued about it.
I will
Like,
I don't remember
I don't have any
the
more.
fights we would have.
Went to a school conference there once.
I didn't want to look like I was texting.
I answered I thought of the answer as soon as I said the question.
National Association of Film.
And then I was like, damn
They were
it.
pretty good.
Oh, yeah,
They
that
were
was
pretty
so
good film crew.
Yeah, they still do.
I was gonna make
They still
it.
do, yeah.
Yeah,
It's an
especially
art.
because we talked about it.
Yeah, I was down
Go
there.
where you are.
30 years.
It's because I used to record my stories
Oh, yeah,
on my
the
phone
one
because I didn't have my own computer when I was younger. I remember you used your own computer as a teenager, but I wanted privacy, so I liked it.
And like I remember our group liking it too.
Nakell.
It was not the one thing, but then when
Nakell.
we talked with the
N-A-K-E-L.
photos and we were back,
They're
they
like-
were decimating it.
They're like, is this really on? I was like, Jesus Christ.
I was scared. I was scared to speak up.
It's terrifying.
It was so scary.
I remember when they said this is it, and I was like, I shut up and I forget.
Okay,
We're
so-
just like, oh shit. Okay.
Hey, no, I didn't go when I was when I was doing
Like the art scene is.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm jumping behind about it, but no, they.
She was clueless about it. Yeah, and it was just so scary to speak up to someone. It was so scary.
Especially outside of the.
That self was very opinionated.
Moved here, they
That was so
found
that
a place on the beach.
I didn't bring a pen. Let me
I'm
ask.
surprised it even
Taboo
made
for
it.
her now in 1929.
I didn't make it.
Early 90s, they weren't around. Quite an interesting time in
Yeah, I was
Los
like,
Angeles.
wow.
Right on the beach,
Like,
right?
it's just like, it's not even like, it's just like,
Great.
okay. I'm like, we might get mad at each other, so we're like,
I don't know how this guy
I don't know, it's just,
It was different.
it's different.
He must be
It's like, we got more
somebody's.
upset about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
film than the story. Not so much like, none of us looked at piece and were like, this
Comparing my
piece
book
is
to
useless.
other books.
Yeah, I think that's something they say one time
He wants
where
to
it
have
was
a-
like, I'm surprised like someone.
So,
Well, that's great.
well,
Oh, it is the last one.
it's,
but,
It was like the
working
one
on a
with
collection of
the-
all my interviews I ever did for going
golf
1968
course.
Yeah, the golf course and stuff like
Or
that.
she knew that was,
I was definitely.
that was a very, they two always.
They at each other for sure. I remember like, no. I remember the
So
first
how
like
long was the
Latino
town?
or like
Till Sunday.
I was like, damn.
Like, no, it got heated.
Yeah, it's like,
Thursday.
I remember times
you know
like
the
spoke
area?
at Burkin
You know?
apart, and then I was like, yeah. You know, I see
We're
like
in,
perspectives here.
Union Square.
Mom, definitely. Like, come on.
I was like, I understand.
They picked it.
Oh, expensive.
Hi there. Hi. Sorry, nice to meet you.
I don't know that guy.
I'm still working as a construction consultant.
You are?
From home.
Why, you need the money? Everybody. Keeps your brain alive. So, how well do you know San Francisco?
Not well at all.
Oh, I bump into tourists all the time, and I'm complete strangers.
Actually, I would really enjoy that because that's
You must take the ferry boat ride to Larkspur.
I do.
Right, that's, of course, that's the right question. Marin County,
Yeah,
they're, the best ferry boat ride,
yeah.
all the ferries leave from Embarcadero, you know that, right?
I know what you're talking about. I haven't been there.
Well, it's
Hi,
sort of
what
Market
time do
Street.
you
Yeah.
close?
That's where all the ferry boats leave.
Okay.
What time do you close?
Do you ever close?
Yes, hi, what time do you
Hoping to have
close?
more of your book
What's up?
consciousness.
Thank you.
I'm talking to
I'd like to
Okay,
get one of those.
San Francisco is a peninsula. You know, water on three sides.
Yeah.
It's true, I
Yeah,
need to get it here.
Embarcadero's over here,
Okay.
and the Golden Gate Bridge goes to answer the question. Marin, right? You know that? Okay. All right.
So
So,
you do a lot of
so
reading.
Marin County is a county to the north.
Travel a lot, you do a lot of reading.
The best ferry boat ride goes from Embarcadero to Larkspur. Larkspur, Larkspur, little town in Marin County. And
I'm sorry. That's okay.
you see all the bridges and all the islands in one ferry boat ride. Very simple.
That's a
Half hour
nice
only.
that you and
Half
your
an hour.
wife
Drink or
can do it together.
very pleasant.
Yeah, that's
For a tourist, that's the best thing you can do. What do you want?
Yeah, we're both
I don't know, I
at
just want to
14 Hills.
stay in the hotel.
Cool. Is that
That's boring.
Yeah, it's
one. Yeah. I lost my reading glasses on the plane. So I can't read anything. I mean, I can see far and I can put these on, but these are for distance. And so they promised me tomorrow. Just take me to CVS or wherever and I can finish there. Yeah. But I was coming up to the plane and I know I had them. And then I got in Evan's car and I didn't have them anymore. I was digging through my purse going, I didn't lose them.
It's funny because I thought about that when I was packing. I should have an extra pair.
I gotta get my bike in.
I canceled reading for reading glasses.
No, at home, I have them everywhere. But so you know, this is your wife's newest book. Yeah, I can't even.
Try and get us all out here. Okay.
So I'm trying to do this so I could see it. Okay.
People our age. You're a capitalist? A capitalist? Oh,
Like, I'm like, I know people and they like it, but I don't know if they're like, let's go.
No, you have some
I have some, I mean, I was like, damn it, I've seen your people.
It helps.
Thank you.
Wow.
I want to get this one in.
People, I'm like,
You're like, I'll try.
Do they have it?
Oh, you're right.
I'll spread the word and be obnoxious.
Does he have? Do you have any more here though? He might. Then I'm gonna go ask him.
Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, these help.
Shameless promoting myself.
Yeah, you're like, hey,
Nakell.
come check me out.
Basically, hey, you're in my class, you should come on.
Monk.
No, it's okay. Blow yourself.
I have
Everyone else.
conscious. It was funny when you're reading.
Is it on? I've been on his case to come up himself because he never does.
Really?
Do you know he had like a book published for it? Like,
I had no idea.
like yeah, he has it. It's out in like Ray's area. They have a copy there. I mean, he's got it published in like major publications.
Oh my god.
But he doesn't tell me.
Me too.
I don't know. It angers me to no end. And like the fact that he's like so up in the air, but like he might go to Arizona next semester.
I want to get this one.
He was supposed to
Maybe to you guys and taxi.
personally and want him to like work with her in preserving culture for like the
You're
whole
reading.
Oh my god.
and like he was just like and now it's
I'm
like
gonna go find out if I can get your conscious book.
That's so wild. Yeah.
he's like up there.
He might have
You might have copies. I'm gonna go find out.
this one.
I've heard it. We do have it.
I heard he's singing for Carlos. Do you guys have a card?
Yeah, last
Yeah, we
last
do.
semester.
We were gonna take
Yeah.
that.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Have you taken the class?
Not with Carl. I've heard great things.
That was great. They really create a nice safe environment, and then like the structure of like their seminars is very like you're free to like share your work in class, like read it out loud. I'm not a big fan of reading myself out loud, so I kind of pass.
Come on. Have you submitted? I'm gonna be like Quinn. Like, have you submitted recently? Like, kick over to Natalie. Come on. Where's the, like every time, just like come in begging or be like, okay, where's the submission? Nope. It's like, okay, good. I'm gonna start being under your name. Be like, I know her San Francisco email. That's what there's. Like, how do we contact you? It's gonna be your San Francisco email.
Right, you're like writing my cover letter. Oh my god, yeah. I'm trying to put myself out there. I don't know about that, but thanks. I'll build that confidence eventually.
You're really amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to see your stuff. She said you should only scratch because I know it's like,
I like
this is
this writing. Thank you. I
just
It's tough. It's tough. They asked for my cover letter, I stopped.
Yeah, that's what she does. She's like,
I'm like, that's too much now. I was like, I gotta talk about myself.
We're all gonna take a picture.
Okay. Should we ask one of these nice young people to take a picture of us?
Taking a picture for us?
Look at them.
Would you want to sit in your chair with your microphone? Just for me?
Oh,
I couldn't even get my leg.
I love your shoes though.
These are my mom's.
They're so gorgeous.
From the probably 70s or 80s.
Wow. Cool, that's cool.
But I
Great
couldn't.
condition.
Yeah.
Here,
I couldn't like put my feet on the ground.
would you want to, let's angle around.
Maybe why don't we stand this
Here,
way?
Jordan.
what's your major?
Okay, I'll sit down.
Yeah.
And hide. No, I should stand. That looks weird.
It's okay. You're like the center of attention.
You're handling it.
Way too big.
That's impressive. Nice. What genre do you think?
Is this an okay background?
yeah,
It's a
that's
travel
really
section.
nice.
I'm okay with that.
Fits.
Alright.
Okay.
Should I put my book in? I know, that's good.
Kelsey can put it.
I do. That stuff's hard. I could never.
I'm just gonna go crazy for a couple seconds. So.
I don't know. There's some poems where like I'm too lost in the
Do
song.
you agree with any of those?
I won't be happy with it.
Yeah. I try to get.
I'm like,
Yeah, we got everyone.
What is this?
Oh wait, that's
There's
super
Marty.
cute.
And like that's the point.
Okay, awesome.
And I read so and I'm
Okay,
like,
so
I'm
we're
kinda lost.
he is confirmed.
But I
the
guess that's
restaurant's
the
open
thing.
till 11,
No, but
and
that's
that's the
the
best place to run.
And then I was like,
The Salvadorian restaurant. So he says, I do. I keep putting it somewhere.
alliteration.
I also couldn't see it there.
No. Is it too bright?
I couldn't look at there was a maybe if I kept going up on the lines because I couldn't see.
Not to be like
the
Do you
words.
write poetry?
you know?
Nice. Look at you.
All that. It was real good to hear.
She's strong lad.
I like to take notes when I go to readings and I didn't sell any paper. And so
No.
I thought it was new, but I wasn't sure how new.
I was telling Ashley that I wanted to get a tattoo because Ashley has cool
I like to
tattoos.
do
But this is what I was thinking of.
Why not? I think that's really nice.
You know, you got
Well, look at the guy from Memento.
I don't know what that means.
That's that.
Well, I don't know. Some of it's just quoting you guys, all three of you today, and some of it is.
No, all that one's prose.
I swear. It's actually really hard to write
I've been
on parts
told
of my hand.
I have poetic language.
It's like not as tall either. I don't.
Let's take a picture of our arm.
Think alike.
It's kind of scary sometimes.
I'm hybrid.
That was an easy one.
That's people think my hybrid is poetry and nonfiction, but it's actually fiction and nonfiction.
Let's go.
Because they go like, that's poetic language. I'm like, really? This is right here, like,
Forever.
it's thesaurus.com, you know? Right? Thesaurus.com, it helps.
I am working on my French first, that way I could zoom.
That's literally all I do.
Do you need help? So I have a big
Oh, should we just leave my hand?
Other desk is a little bit
You have that.
If you look at like my phone's like auto-generated things, like synonym for flaw.
I was gonna say, I know that was yours. I don't see the name yet. I was like, I know this
broad
is.
vocabulary.
I know.
You look. This. You recognize the face?
Well, this I recognize. I recognize this as you also. That one I think I should know.
What's another color? Green. I'm like, but there is nothing. Thank you. I'm surprised I don't write comedy, you know.
I know.
Well, not.
All right. Looks like we're floating towards the door. So here's money for the books. I want to. No, I can't use a ton of them. That's the books that's open.
That sounds. I've only.
So there's
I mean, I met your mom kind of once, but more from what you shared with your friends, right?
Yeah. She was like, I like it. Well, the thing is, I don't respond to her Instagram reels anymore, so she texts them to me.
there.
She's like, you'll be
And
in.
I'm gonna grab a couple things here and write you a check for them. Okay. But yeah, we can't really use the stock after the fact too much.
I've got it to my card, but it was nice.
She called me today, told me she doesn't want to work with me anymore.
Oh, well. Yes, we gotta do something. I don't know what, but something.
Do it.
So can I pay you at 60% for these and for the
Clearly mine is flexible.
beautiful thing?
You got options.
Okay, good. I'll do a check.
Who's this? Thanks. The reading was incredible. I loved it. I also liked your snaps. Those are some solid snaps. I was like, wow.
But that stuff you need.
Don't think about it.
I didn't even notice.
Just looking at the stuff.
It was incredible. I would like to hear your work more. Just every 14
Yeah,
minutes.
here's the bag. I can do that.
And it was nice to meet you. Good luck with class.
So here we go. And thank you for hauling stock. You know, it's a little daunting to figure out how to lay stuff in for reading, so I usually lay it off on the folks. I think I don't think I have one of these. Yeah, I do. All right. So I got a handful of things that we keep on hand here.
Somebody wanted a copy of consciousness.
Yeah, I had one, so I sold it to them. That one I sold out of our stock. And like so, I think I'll stack this a little better so they don't fall over as you're walking down the street. That should be pretty decent. And that's Evan's stuff. I'll take a couple of those and give the rest back to him. So here's this. And we'll give these to him, and I'll write you a check for this stuff real quick. Okay? And yeah, as far as I can tell, Rincon Caesar might be your place. But it'll be great.
Okay,
I'm
that
sure
sounds
it's
good.
I kept it for you. Okay,
And
thanks.
then,
Yeah.
That one sounds
There's a restaurant on Mission Street called Rincon Caesar. I think it's Salvador's place. So as near as I can tell, I couldn't find a lot of listings. It's hard to find places. So I'm sure you'll
Oh,
find
I would still read that series because it was so good.
systematic record where I'm at. That seems to be the one. Thank you all for coming. Come back, come back. I mean, not right now. All right. Good evening, huh? Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So, should we be taking the wine to the restaurant so you're going?
16, 37, 43, 53, 59,
Play some of it.
69, 72.
Oh, you didn't bring it.
No, it's Evan. We were going to pay him for it.
Is that mine? I'm sorry, I forgot.
72,
I'm surprised Evan didn't take it with him.
92, 97, almost like $100, right?
Wait, why? Well, I heard you talking about it.
I think it's the one for the restaurant.
Okay, so what I got here looks like $100 at retail. And so I'm going to give you 60% of that. Is that okay? I mean, that's to put them in stock.
Yeah.
So, and I gave you that cash, that just came straight from the folks through my credit card machine to you guys. So I took a cut of that. So today is the 28th. These are books. I did not to Mark because there's a couple things for me. So he owes me that.
Okay, I hold him to it.
You hold it too. Don't let him get away with nothing. Okay, but your name is on the check. So yeah, that was a really fun evening, and thank you for bringing out a nice bunch of folks. Good job, folks. Chapman. Good. And I looked up, I couldn't find my distant cousin's name associated with Chapman. I told Martin that I needed, some kind of relation to the choral music there for a while. This was 1960.
Before he was there, right?
I don't know. You may have, I don't know. Maybe the guy
Do
stayed
you
on.
want us to take that wine, or are you taking it?
Oh
I
yeah,
was
thank you.
Go ahead and take it, but
There's a lot of wine.
I
there.
want to
There's
Actually,
still
I'll
the,
take it,
the
yeah.
carriers there.
take it.
Don't take my red wine, I'll kill you. Here's the carrier.
Oh, there's the carrier. That's
Okay, cool.
perfect.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for supplying provisioning the people, getting through poetry without a bottle of white wine.
It's pretty difficult.
Does anybody ever drink white wine except at poetry readings? That's what I want.
Yeah.
Are you all worried about my carpet? Is that why there's no red wine?
No, our dress.
Oh,
Is
the
your
dress-
shirt.
I-
Good haul.
Yeah, the shirt's.
See y'all soon. No, it seems like at readings everyone just wants to drink white.
I think a lot of places say, don't you dare bring red wine in here. I bought a dark
Maybe
carpet, so I wouldn't worry about that. But actually, it's very visible during the day. And we've had to replace entire floorboards because they started to creak when the wine soaked through the carpet, and we soaked the carpet with water, and then eventually the heads of the nails were soaked in the Like, why is that squeaking so much? Wine rots the floorboards.
I didn't know that.
There you go. You ever open a bookshop? Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I hope they feed you well.
Yeah.
Salvadorans, they're good, solid people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
And at least they're open.
Yeah,
For a
that's
lot.
a
Major points. I can't believe people don't open like a late night restaurant here and there around the city. It seems like there's a lot of people going like, what am I gonna eat? It's 9 o'clock. So yeah. All right.
Good night.
Good night. We'll see ya. Thanks again. Next time I'm in the Orange County area.